Welcome to Let's Explore. Today I am feeling very happy to announce that from now onwards I am going to deliver my all the lectures on the topic of BSc Physics, which will be helpful to class 11th students, class 12th students, BSc students, and even me in exploring the subject physics. So, to begin with, I thought of starting my lecture on the topic which will be useful for all the three classes, class 11th, class 12th, and BSc. To begin with, I thought of the lesson should I learn first in order to strengthen my base and have a better grasp in further reading. So the topic which I choose today to teach or to have a lecture is units and measurement revision, or we should say units and measurement exploring. So let's explore on my channel, let's explore the units and measurement. In physics, we explore the things from the tip of the pin to the size of the universe. So, what is the smallest thing in the universe? If we are saying that in physics, we start from the tip of the pin to the size of the universe, so what is the smallest thing in the universe? The smallest thing in the universe is the quark. It is quark. It is quark. I will discuss about quark, their families in further discussions. But now onward, I am going to be forward for the lecture of units and measurement. Now we have talked about the smallest thing. Now we will talk about the largest thing present in the universe. The largest thing, present thing in the universe is the universe itself. Doesn't it feel joke? The largest thing present in this world is the universe itself. So in physics, I think we deal with all the things, maybe stars, maybe planets, maybe earth, everything around us is physics. So today's topic is units and measurement. So let's talk about units. When we talk about units, the first and basic things comes in my mind is unit is the base of everything. Without unit, physics is nothing. Because if I talk about 1 meter, 1 is nothing without meter in physics. If we talk about 2 kilogram, then 2 is nothing without kilogram in physics. So these are the basic quantities which are needed to express a quantitative experiment or to express a quantitative result. So let us see what is the fashion written in the tablet. To express the measurement quite quantitatively, we have to introduce units. For example, 1 kg, 1 gram, 1 second, etc. So I would highlight it. To express measurements quantitatively, we have to introduce units. For example, 1 kg, 1 gram, 1 second, etc. Here 1 is the numerical value everyone knows, and kg, gram and second are units. Now we talk about the units. Now let us talk about types of units. What are the types of units? So there are basically 7 base units. Why we choose only 7? This is the question. We choose 7 because these are used almost 80 to 85% places of physics, and 15% uses left are used through these base quantities, which we call derived quantities, which I will talk later. So the base quantities are, as I already did it, second, kilogram, meter, candela, mole, Kelvin, ampere. So these are 7 base quantities. And I would also like to introduce you that kilogram, meter and second are fundamental units used everywhere in mechanics. Yes, I am very sure because in solving numericals, I came across kilogram, meter and second almost everywhere. Now, let's talk about derived units. Before I talk about derived units, I would like to talk about what does it mean when we say derive. Derive means taking something from someone. For example, I derived a pen from my friend. I derived a chocolate from my friend. I derived a paper from my father. So derived means taking something from a particular thing. So in derived units we are taking few units of base units to form a new unit. So more units can be described from base units such as force, which uses kilogram, meter per second square or per meter second square. Each kilogram means kilogram, meter and second. So these three are combined gives a result. So this given result is a derived quantity because it is taken from something, and it is where from where it is taken from. It is taken from base quantity. So derived units are those units which are taken from the base units to form a new system of units. I hope it is clear to you. The next point I will talk about is any measurement done without the knowledge of uncertainty is meaningless. It is very sure. Whenever we are talking about any measurement and we are not sure that whether we are correct or wrong, then doing so is worthless. So in order to improve that, we should have the meaning and the knowledge about that particular subject. Now we are talking about measurement. Measurement means to measure the things. Now we describe about errors in measurement. Before we describe errors in measurement, I would like to discuss you that errors are done everywhere. There are errors in our feelings, there are errors in our localities, there are errors in our batting skills. Everywhere errors are present. So in measurement too, there are errors. And what are those errors? And what is an error is an important thing. So to conclude that what is error, I would like to draw your attention to a classroom in which two friends, Ram and Syam, solved a numerical given by the teacher. Ram got the answer 10 Newton and Syam got the answer 8 Newton. The teacher told the correct answer is 10 Newton. So Ram is correct and Syam is incorrect. Syam is incorrect. So error is true value minus calculated value. So true value is Ram is 10. Calculated value, so true value by the teacher is 10 and calculated value is 10. So 10 minus 10 is equal to 0. So Ram has no error. While Syam has true value is equal to 10 minus calculated value is equal to 8. 10 minus 8 is equal to 2. While Syam has the error 2. Of 2 means if Syam would have found the magnitude of force plus 2, then he would have been resulted in a true answer. So this is the error. Error means difference between true value and calculated value. So now we had known about error. Let's talk about classification of errors or types of errors. Which type of errors occurs in physical instruments or in physical measurements? So there are basically two types of error: systematic error or controllable error, and second is random error. Systematic or controllable errors are those errors whose cause of error is known and can be improvised. But random errors, we don't know what is the cause of the uncertainty. What is the cause of the uncertainty? We don't know about it. We don't know how it is happening. We don't know why it is happening. And we don't know why our answer is not coming correct, why our measurement is incorrect. But in systematic error we can correct so, because we know the effect of error, what is the cause of the effect of error. So systematic errors are defined, or should I say, are defined or prescribed as follows. Systematic errors are the errors whose causes are known, as I basically told you. They can be either positive or negative, it is correct. Due to the known cause, these errors can be minimized. Systematic errors can be further classified into three categories. Systematic errors can be classified into three categories. First is instrumental error, second is environmental error, third is observational error. So let's talk about instrumental error. So to begin with, let me erase it. Sorry for the time lapse. So firstly I will talk about instrumental error. Suppose I have a centimeter scale and it's got broken, and here it is 2, here it is 3, here it is 4, and here it is 5. If I measure it, I don't know that the centimeter scale is broken. I don't know any idea. I believe on the instrument. So I did it. And I said that my answer is 5. I said that my answer is 5. Should you say, or what you will say about it? It is correct or not? It is incorrect. Why it is incorrect? Because of the instrument. So instrumental error occurs due to the error in the instruments or defective pieces which are available in the instruments. Defective pieces of the instruments causes the instrumental error. I hope instrumental error will be clear to you. So let me discuss again. Those errors are due to imperfect design or erroneous manufacture or misuse of the measuring instrument. These can be reduced by using more accurate instruments. Now let's talk about environmental errors. We are talking about instrumental error. Now let's talk about environmental error. So environmental errors are those errors which are affected by our environment, such as humidity, pressure, temperature, dust, vibration, or magnetic and electrostatic fields. So I hope you will understand environmental error. Now let's talk about observational errors. Observational errors are observed by our eyes, but we may have imperfection in our eyes. So we can't see properly or we can't calibrate properly what actually is the reading. That is known as observational error. These errors are due to improper reading of the apparatus or carelessness of taking observations, or maybe the eye defect. should I say it? Now last topic of the error is random error, which I already told you. There are two types of error: systematic or controllable error. Systematic or controllable error are further classified as environmental error, instrumental error, observational error. Now let's talk about random errors. Random errors are those errors whose cause is not known to us, so we cannot correct them. But we can do one thing. If physics uses math, then we can do so by taking the average. The average of all the measured values is the true value for the random error, because it can be approached to the true value. It can be, suppose the true value is 5, and if you do the average, it's come 4. The more average we will do, the more closer we will reach. So the random errors are the errors which can be corrected by taking the average of all the readings taken multiple times. So we have discussed random errors. Let me see what is written here. These errors are due to unknown causes, as I already told you. Therefore, they occur irregularly and are variable in magnitude and sign. Since the cause of these errors are not known precisely, they cannot be eliminated completely. For example, when the same person repeats the same observations in same condition, he may get different readings different times. Random errors can be reduced by repeating the observations a large number of times and taking the arithmetic mean of observations. Now, let's focus on dimensions and dimensional formula. What is the difference between dimensions and dimensional formula? So it is written here, all the physical quantities, I am written this, all the physical quantities can be derived from the base quantities. The power exponent of base quantity that enters into the expression of physical quantity is called the dimensions of the quantity in that base. To make it clear, consider the physical quantity force. Suppose force is equal to kg meter per the second square. So it is m l t minus 2. So the dimensions are the power of the base units. Base unit m power 1, L base unit 1, T base unit power minus 2. So we say that force is, we say that force is defined to be, or should I say, we say that dimension is defined to be one in mass, one in length, and minus 2 in time. So what we learned, the dimensions are the exponents of the base quantities or base units. So I hope you would have been clear about dimensions. Now let's talk about dimensional formula. The representation ml minus 2, mlt minus 2, the representation is known as the dimensional formula. To represent it like this way, mlt minus 2, this representation is known as dimensional formula. The representation in a bracket middle bracket, and the base units inside it is overall completely called the dimensional formula, and the dimensions are the powers which the bases hold. I hope it is clear to you. Now let's talk about how should we clear out or correct the reading in random error. So it is equal to average of all the values and average of all the errors plus average of all the plus minus average of all the errors. So random errors can be eliminated by average of all the values plus minus average of all the errors. Now let's do a question or a problem on dimension analysis. We use dimension analysis to derive certain formula. For example, dimension analysis is done to improvise a formula or to improvise a relationship between different quantities. We use dimensional analysis to derive the certain formulas. For example, I dropped an apple. Suppose here was apple. I dropped it from here, H1, and another apple. I dropped it from here, H2. So we use dimensional analysis to derive certain formula. You will be clear about it. For example, I dropped an apple from two different heights. I assume that it is the same apple. It is A. Both apples are same, but are dropped from different heights. So, in order to calculate the dimensional formula, I should think on the factors it will depend upon. What are the factors it will depend upon? So in my mind, the factors were this, that the time t taken to drop from a certain height could be or can be equal to height raised to the power something, mass raised to the power something, g raised to the power something. Here we have given the name of something of that is that of variable a, b and c. In equation, the left side should be equal to the right side. We can't have apple on one side and orange on other side. This is to major concept that in equation left hand side is always equal to right hand side. The same basic formula the same basic technique should I say we are going to use in dimensional analysis. So what are the factors? I suppose that it depends on the height from which it will fall. It depends on the mass. It depends on the gravitational constant g, and the powers or the exponent I gave it to the height a, to the mass b, and to the g is c. So let's begin. T raised to the power 1 is equal to T raised to the power 1 is equal to L raised to the power a, m raised to the power b, and Lt minus 2 raised to the power c. Now, as we know, we are talking about it depends on time, so mass will not have any degree or exponent in the left hand side. Length will also not have any exponent power in the left hand side, but time will have the exponent of 1. Time, so just a second. Time will have the exponent 1. So to begin with, LA is here and L is here. So LA plus C is written here, MB is here and there is no B anywhere, so MB is here. T, there is no T, just 1 minus 2C, so it's written here. Now let's equate the power on both sides. M raised to the power 0, L raised to the power 0, T raised to the power 1. So M0 means M0 means M0, L0, T1, LA plus C, MB and T minus 2C. M0 means B is equal to 0. M0 means B is equal to 0. Let me highlight it. M0 means B is equal to 0. Okay. M0 is equal to B is equal to 0. L0 means A plus C is equal to 0. A plus C is equal to L 0 and T1 is equal to minus 2C. 1 is T1 is equal to minus 2C. So A would have 1 upon 2. If C will have minus 1 by 2, A will have 1 by 2. In order to do this equation or equate this equation to 0. So we got A 1 by 2, C minus 1 by 2, we got A 1 by 2, C minus 1 by 2 and B is equal to 0. So I wrote it like this: 1 by 2, C is equal to minus 1 by 2 and A is equal to 1 by 2. So I wrote it like this: time is equal to constant, some of a constant, we don't know about the constant. Time is equal to under root of height upon under root of gravitational acceleration. This shows that time is directly proportional to root h as written here. That means t is equal to k root h. We don't know the constant value, but the constant value will remain the same everywhere. If you talk about t is equal to root h, then constant value k will remain same everywhere. So t1 is equal to k root h1, k will remain constant, and t2 is equal to k root h2. So k will be constant and t2 is equal to k root h2. Yes, and so t1 upon t2 is equal to root h1. t1 upon t2 is equal to root h1 upon h2. T1 upon T2 is equal to H1 upon T2, which shows that it don't depend on the mass, and so we can say that time taken to fall is independent of mass. Means time taken is independent of means that whether we throw a heavy ball or a lighter ball from the same height, and if there is no air resistance or no any drag, then both will fall simultaneously. So this was all about my first lecture. I hope you would have been enjoyed it and learned. In the next lecture I will solve the numericals on units and measurement, and will further go on the topic of BSc lectures. Thank you and Jai Hind.